Good evening and welcome to a Tuesday night edition of the Buddy Martin Show. I had to think about it for a minute. These holidays get your mind all screwed up, don't they? We're here with you tonight again. Glad to be back. A little under the weather, but feeling like getting my strength back. So looking forward to tonight's show. We have our usual Tuesday night lineup. Plus, David Whitley from the Gainesville Sun will be here. And we had a chance to talk to Graham Hall, 247 Sports, and then it's trivia night, and Lauren Meadows will be on with his trivia question. And I'm going to talk about keeping up. How do we track what's going on? We have a little bit of news on recruiting, the same stuff you've been hearing. We got some transfers. We're looking for more information in the portals. We'll sort it all out right here at the Buddy Martin Show tonight. So come join me. Tell your friends and neighbors the Buddy Martin Show is on the air right now, right here.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening and welcome to the program. It's the Buddy Martin Show. It's heard here now 4 nights a week right here at this time on this station. We'll be with you the rest of the year, hopefully this time. Maybe add a couple of shows in there or as news breaks and whatever goes on. Last night was a weird show. Shane and I were talking, and during our conversation, this whole thing happened with Damar Hamlin, which has been the story of the day and the week and the month and maybe the year in pro football, and it's very scary, and you've heard about it all day. Today, we don't talk a lot about pro football, but that's one you can't get away from. So thoughts and prayers up still to the Buffalo linebacker. Shane was saying last night or this morning on this program, he played there 2 years. He knows that's a very close-knit community in Buffalo. And the absolute sheer horror and shock of what went on. I don't want to over-dramatize it because I've seen some people doing it today and kind of, and just the fact that he's still alive, and I don't know what's going on. There is one report, but I hasten to not say things I only hear by Twitter, but sometimes you can get information from Twitter that you can't get from other places. And tonight, I'm just going to read this because it sounds like it may be legit, and I don't know the person who posted it, but this particular person said, I just spoke with Dorian Glenn, Damar Hamlin's uncle, who in fact is his uncle, who said his nephew is on a ventilator, but he's improved to 50% oxygen, needing to be at 100. He's still sedated, but main focus recovering to breathe on his own and healing lungs. So we certainly continue to pray for him. And again, I apologize for putting out information I can't validate, but the doctors aren't going to tell you. It's just the way it is. But let's just hope it's good news, and David Whitley will join me in just a matter as we say good evening to you. Eric Newton is the pole position tonight. Eric, good evening. Tommy Guns Seal, Terry Johnson, Gene McClain, good to hear from you. Becky Smith Carlisle used to lead the pole position all the time. David Baldoff, dilly to you, buddy, and good to have you on the program. We're going to do this quick commercial from our friends over at by the way, this is trivia night tonight, too, just so you know. Lauren will be here. From Titan MRI, come back, go to the Orange Blue Room, and David Whitley will be joining us on the program.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
All right, thanks very much with Jeff Cardoza there. Let's go right to the orange and blue room and see if the man is there, how he's doing. And always love to talk to David. Not only does he write very well, he's a good talker and he's a good guy to have on as our regular guest. And we appreciate that very much. Good evening to you, David.
Hello, buddy. Happy New Year.
Same to you. Now, what is the legal ramifications of that? How long can you go and say Happy New Year and it's still legit? Is there like some kind of etiquette point on that? Because you would know because you're into that kind of thing.
Yeah, some people tell me there's the 12 days of Christmas which extends through January 6th.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of go by that, or it's the first time when I've seen somebody and they're still in that New Year, and they're still that mojo. Now, a week from now, it'd get old. It's sort of be like having your Christmas lights still up.
You don't want to be saying that on President's Day, do you?
Yeah. No. Oh. That'd be a good cutoff. Yeah. Definitely
okay.
President's Day.
Okay.
Yeah.
If not, certainly Valentine's Day would be way too long to be saying Merry Christmas. Mm-hmm. But I appreciate the charitable greeting and thank you and Merry Christmas. Back to you, David, as well. I hope your things went well at your house. Were you under the weather?
No more so than normal.
Okay. All right.
Do I sound like it? Do I look like it?
No, it seems like everybody I've talked to in the recent weeks, everybody has been. Well, I was out for 4 days, or I had this touch of COVID. I was in. It seemed like everybody, and so health is on our minds right now. You know what happened to my house in December, and you start thinking about that stuff, and then of course last night's situation. With DeMar Hamlin, a horrible thing that went on there with that game, and it was so awkward. People didn't know how to deal with it. The broadcasters, the players, nobody knew how to deal with it. We've been around games a lot. And we've seen people get injured, and I've even been around a high school team, where a player was killed. I didn't see it happen, but that was right there in front of you. It was like, not to dwell too much on it because I don't really have a lot to offer that would be insightful or informational. Except to say that you can see the horror on the faces of the young people, and they're some dealing with this kind of thing for the first time. And of course, then the fact that, as someone said, you spend more time with your teammates than you do your family. So they get to be very, very close people. So it was quite a moment. And I did say that I saw some good news on Twitter tonight I want to share with you. One of them was apparently. Now, this is the third figure I've seen. They've all been different. I would trust it to be good. DeMar Hamlin's GoFundMe page is nearly $5.5 million. The donations from people, and including Andy Dalton, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Josh McDaniels, the Commanders, and on and on. Now, there was also a story I read, a tweet, I don't know how accurate it was, but that they had said his Christmas fund that he had started for toys for kids. That number was way up, and I don't even want to quote the numbers, but I think it's wonderful. It seems like this has touched a lot of people, David, hasn't it?
Oh, well, without a doubt. I mean, if you had to have, there are very few stages in America now that everybody watches, and really, college football and more so the NFL on a Monday night. I mean, there are probably more eyeballs on that one thing than anything else that you can think of these days. I mean, because there's very few communal things that that reaches so far across the spectrum of everything, and for it to happen like that,
right.
Just what really struck me, and I didn't see it live. I just happened I was watching something else, and I flipped over, about 9:20, and the game went on, and you could see the long faces of the
right.
Susie Colbert and Booger McFarland and Schefter talking about it, and what, and so you knew something drastic had happened.
Yeah.
And I think what set this one apart was that there have been some terrible injuries that we've all seen on football fields, but they're usually involved a spinal thing where as bad as you just hoping, well, hopefully the guy will twitch a finger or move something like that, but it wasn't as if you were seeing the guy almost die on the field.
Right.
And this is just and you're thinking back, and other than Hank Gathers, with the Loyola basketball player about 30 years ago, and then there was Chuck Hughes, who was a Detroit Lion back in '71. I vaguely remember seeing that on the news. Just to have somebody basically just he didn't drop dead, but the other two did basically drop dead.
Yeah.
But to see that CPR and I mean, this guy was fighting for his life on the field, and that's just what really sets the spot. I mean, because basically people were, you don't get to see somebody. It's very rare we actually see somebody actually die. I've never seen it. But if he had died on that, that's what just made it so riveting. And,
well, actually, his heart stopped. His heart stopped. Technically, he did die.
Yeah. And I mean, as you said, nobody knew. You sort of, felt sorry for the broadcasters because they had to.
They didn't know where to go. They didn't know where to go with it.
Yeah, because they didn't know more than anybody else.
Yeah.
That they knew, and everybody's wanting, but it just wasn't there. There was nothing other. Everything was a mystery. And in some ways, it's still we're still sort of guessing what happened. I mean, at least think he's still alive. You hear critical condition, and you don't.
Well, critical but stable is better than critical.
Yeah.
So, and not being a doctor, I don't know how, but we'll leave it like this. Continue to pray for him, and hopefully he'll get through this night. And that's all you can do in a situation like that. I'm trying to find a little bit of. I'm trying to find a little bit of light somewhere in his heart. I think I automatically gravitate to things like this. This tweet where apparently this guy was peeking through the window at the University of Florida facility, okay, when somebody walked up behind him, okay, and he said, "You want to go in and see this?" He said, "Yeah." So this guy posts, says, "My dad is creeping through the new facilities at night. Someone walks up behind him and says, 'Want to go in?' And that someone was Billy. My old man's in heaven." That's a nice little story right there, isn't it? That's good.
Yes, that is. And it's, it really doesn't surprise me. It seems like something Billy Napier would do. Just see a stranger and invite him in. Mm-hmm. And that is a nice little touch. I hadn't heard about that, but that is definitely Billy Napier there, or it's certainly the world's greatest lookalike behind him.
Yeah, and and the thing about it is that it was a small thing, but it's such a big thing.
Yeah,
and I give Billy a lot of props for that. Those small things make such a big difference. Now, I get angry at people who say, "Well, I waited for a half hour for an autograph and he didn't sign my pay." That doesn't come with. That's not something you guarantee. But, I mean, this is something that, such a simple thing that meant so much to this man's life and his son. And look at that smile on Billy's face. Like, he's grinning like a Cheshire cat. He's kind of proud of himself, I believe, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. He didn't do it for it to be put out on social media. No, it has, obviously.
No, not at all.
And it would have been very easy, for him. I'm sure he's always got 1,000 plates spinning. Even these days, it's from just whether he's just walking out, going home, late at night, or walking back in to burn some more midnight oil, for him to just do it. But I mean, he probably gave that guy a quick little tour, and boy, he could have put. Imagine if they were raffling that away on a raffle ticket for some sort of charity thing, private tour by Billy Napier of the new facility. He could have drummed up some serious dollars for that, but this guy, it was definitely his lucky day.
Yeah, he's like saying, if my friends could see me right now, that's what he's thinking. And it's a story that makes you smile. And one thing I like about your writing, David, is that you do a lot of that. You do the way you write gives me a smile, gives people a smile. And sometimes I think that's a lost art, I don't know who you enjoyed growing up reading, what smiles there were. I thought Tom McEwen had some interesting, funny lines and good things that were just small things, his menus and whatever. But I just love things that make people smile, laugh, which is great. So
I will always genuflect to the great Tom McEwen. He was, and how he began his notes column. What was it? Sitting here over some fresh squeezed orange juice from
chilled grapefruit. There's no doubt he had the whole menu. His menus were famous. They were famous, yeah. So all right. So now we get into the job of reporting. which your job is to kind of tell us where things stand in Gainesville and what's going on. And that means when you start talking about that, it's like, well, if you're walking out and got David, what can you tell us about the transfer portal? David, are we going to sign any more defensive backs? David, is our offense going to get better? David, will they have a new play caller? What are the most asked questions in your job that you get from people regarding the Florida Gator football team?
Yeah, well, lately it's been what's going on like with the transfer portal, because now that they've signed the high school kids, this is the next phase. I mean, they got to start filling some holes there, and the transfer portal is open for another, I don't know how many days, 3-4 weeks. I'm not sure exactly how often, but this is the next infusion of talent that they have to, and you're starting to see some names come up. Frank, I'm not that much of a personnel person. Yeah, if you told me that Caleb Williams was transferred, something like that, I would know.
You'd know, yeah.
But but once you get, I mean, honestly, I couldn't name more than 2 offensive linemen in the SEC. There's some great ones, but I couldn't tell you, when they bring somebody in. Then I'll check it out and see who they were. I mean, the kid from Wisconsin, the quarterback they signed, he's certainly interesting because
Graham Mertz. Graham Mertz.
He will. Goodness knows we will write the heck out of him. And what is the truth with Graham Mertz over the next 8 months?
Right.
Is he? Was he just poorly coached at Wisconsin, or was he was he just not that good? We'll be able to write all those stories, but fact is, we won't really know anything until September 3rd or whenever they open at Utah. Or
if then,
on whether Graham Mertz is here. I mean, obviously they had to bring in somebody, besides what they had coming back.
Well, I think Miller's still got a shot, but let's be honest with you, the quarterback of the future is going to be here. Rashada, and he's
right, and everybody will hope. Well, maybe he can come in and be that great. Wow, pick it up right away. But there are, I'm trying to think of a freshman, a true freshman who's come in right away and won a job. Who was really, I mean, they have developed. I mean, there have been some guys that came in and started halfway through the year, like even Caleb Williams last year at Oklahoma. He took the job. Well, everybody thought Spencer Rattler was going to be the guy, and he wasn't. And by the end of the year, Caleb Williams was the guy. So, I mean, the wild optimist out there in Galen can think, maybe, Rashad will come in and take the job. But I think, maybe eventually next year he could contribute. I mean, it's hard to imagine that you're going to be starting a true freshman at Utah. On September 3rd.
Right.
But back to the original. It's just just monitoring the portal and who they're bringing in, and obviously they're looking for some help along the offensive and defensive line, especially.
We don't even know how to report this. It's just a whole new world. I mean, I know I can read these figures. I know they got a defensive lineman from Memphis who's 6'6", 340. That tells me something. He's obviously, he's a transfer portal, so size matters. In this case, it does. They certainly need some beef up there, and of course, we also know about Mertz, and we also know about linebacker Tejada Mitchell from Ohio State. Sounds like a good linebacker, but what do we know? We don't know, so we're guessing. We'll have to wait and see, like everybody else does. But on the matters of recruiting, again, I try not to get into this, but you at some point got to dip your finger or toe in it a little bit to know what's going on, because there is a direct correlation, and you have to at least keep up and know. I only know because I read it on someplace, other site or Twitter or whatever. Apparently, Florida's dropped to number 13 in the 247 Team 223 recruiting class. Now I have Graham Hall on later. I'll ask him that. But that they dropped apparently because A&M went ahead of them. They flipped a receiver. So I guess that matters. I don't get too excited about it. But all right, let's talk about the playoffs. I'm excited about what may happen next year. Will happen 2 years from now. Have 12 teams in the playoff. Because we're going to have some really good games. We were talking about it today. Think about USC and Tulane beats USC.
Yeah.
That's a heck of a playoff win, right?
Oh, man, yeah. I think that once we go through this 12-team playoff, even the first year, people are going to look back and saying, what took so long? I mean, they've been asking that for a while, but you're really going to be saying, my goodness,
Yeah.
And it does make you, just wish that they could stop. I mean, at least we know definitively it's going to be one more year of the 14, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, this was, especially good year because it was so wide open.
Yeah.
And just the fact TCU was there. And I mean, it is nice, finally people have, equated it to finalists like March Madness where you get a Cinderella because it's so hard to get a Cinderella in football. But to have, I mean, who the heck is TCU? Have you ever been to TCU?
I have not. I know it was Dan. It was Dan Jenkins' school, and he loved TCU. He moved back there to be like a mile from the stadium to finish up his lifetime there. Yeah, and I know, of course.
I was there when I was way back in 30 covering the Southwest Conference for San Antonio Light.
Oh yeah,
3 or 4 times, and it's a massive stadium. But back then they were really hurting, and they were lucky to fill half of it back then, and they would all talk about Sammy Baugh and the glory days and all that, and it was just hard to think. All right, well that's good, but it was sort of like talking about the Roman Empire. It was never, it had its day, but it was never going to come back. And for what they have done, just overnight. I mean, they had a good program obviously for a long time, but then last year sort of fell, and then for Sonny Dykes to come in and do what he's done.
See, that's what I want to know. I want to know more about that. I want to know more because, of course, his mentor was Mike Leach, of course.
Yeah.
And he's in the Mike Leach coaching tree. And here's a little factoid I pulled out today. TCU was ranked number 32 in a talent composite from 247 Sports. 32. They're playing for the national title. And now they didn't play anywhere near the competition, but the team I saw play looked very competitive. I mean, their defensive backs could cover and hit a ton of bricks, and I was impressed with what I saw. That's a good football team, and of course, I love the quarterback. He played well that last game out. So TCU is a wonderful story. I don't think they're going to pull off the Cinderella story against Georgia because Georgia's too big and powerful and talented. But boy, what a year they've had! What a year they've had. Now,
and I was just going to say that I mean, I'm with you. I have a hard time thinking that they're going to beat Georgia, and I think a lot of it is because I think if Georgia was going to have a quote letdown kind of game, I think it happened against Ohio State, and that was I think the game that obviously Ohio State went. From a mental standpoint, they were in a great position. They had nothing to lose, and they got in there, and they were playing with house money in a way. And they, and that was, I flipped that on at halftime, and I thought, they're pretty much dead. It's going to take, really one of the just a Stetson Bennett miracle, and that's what they got. That's what it evolved into. So I think that Georgia probably played it. It got its bad game out of the way, and I think it's just going to really
without that Hall of
bring its A game.
Without that Hall of Fame timeout call that Kirby made, they might be sitting at home.
Yeah. I mean that was one of those skin of the teeth thing. But if Georgia brings its A game, then TCU doesn't stay. If it brings its B game, obviously TCU's got a shot. Because I imagine that they're legit. I mean, at this point, you got him. No, I don't. They obviously wouldn't. I don't think gone undefeated if they're playing an SEC schedule, but that doesn't mean they're not a legit top 5 team that can beat anybody.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Someone's talking about Trayshawn Webb. I can't talk about him enough about him. Let's see. David Hunter said Trevor Lawrence and Lamar Jackson were true freshman starters. Okay, I'll take your word for that. These guys know a lot of this stuff.
Well, I think they had a guy, and I don't know if Trevor got it right away, I mean, he was by the end of the year, but and I don't, Louisville. I don't know what the deal with. I mean, it has had. There have been freshman starters, but a guy who was popping your eyes first game out as a freshman.
No,
who obviously was better.
Well,
so, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Rashada may be the starter by
right.
Game
Could
6
happen.
or 7.
Yeah.
But to come in and now I don't know if he's an early enrollee or not.
Yes, he is. He's early enrollee.
That'll make a big. That could make a big difference.
He is one of the early enrollees. Yeah. I think it's 17 of them or 18 of them. Yeah. Here's someone mentions Chris Leak. I don't think Chris Leak started as a freshman.
Yeah.
Now we got some pretty sharp dudes on there. David's one of them, and Clifford says, "Remember Chris Leak?" Yeah, but I don't believe Chris Leak started. I have to go back and look. Somebody run through their book real fast. Look it up. That's just my memory, which is not to be trusted, by the way. So yeah, this guy. There's some news today that nobody's talking about, and I didn't see this coming. Maybe you did, but how about this break for Florida right here?
Oh. Well, I can't say I blame him because I don't think he was going to have a better year next year than he did this year.
No, I can't either. I just didn't hear anything about it.
Yeah.
Didn't see that one coming at all. Did you?
Yeah. I can't. I sort of assumed that I didn't know he hadn't declared, but I just always assumed he would go because based on what he had done. I thought, well, perhaps the knee injury would be such that he may think, I don't want to, because I don't think he's going to be able to work out, for pro days and all that kind of stuff. But again, it's hard to imagine that he's going to have be more impressive in 2023 than he was in 2022.
Yeah, all coming off that injury, I agree. I just didn't. For some reason, I thought he was coming back. I hadn't heard till tonight, so that's news to me. It's hard to keep up with the portal and transfers and in recruiting, and it's hard. Beyond my pay grade.
With the COVID year that they got on top of everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
And for all I know, Stetson Bennett will. Now he is officially out of eligibility here at age 25. I hope.
I think he's the same age as. Where did I read? Is the Buffalo Bills starting quarterback?
Yeah, I think I know he's older than Justin Herbert and a couple of other guys that are starting in the NFL.
Yeah, 20
already.
25 or.
20, yeah, he's 25 years old.
Yeah.
And that when you think about it, what's Jaden Rashada? 17.
Yeah, really.
I mean,
amazing.
Yeah. It's
sure.
I mean, there have been older QBs, but they've usually been, the Mormon types who went away on a mission, or the Chris Winkie types who played baseball and came back. It's just rare to have a guy who's just been around that long on campus.
Yeah. Yeah, Alan Cole wants us to speak about the offensive line. I quite frankly can't. I talked to fans about it last night. He keeps up with it. Of course, we know that one of them gone to Southern Cal. The two guys who started some are gone, and the best one is gone, obviously, All-American.
Yeah.
So I don't know enough about it to speak on it, and I don't think anybody does.
Yeah, I just know that they've lost, like you said, between Torrance and Braun and Ethan White. Ethan White was the one that sort of surprised me.
That surprised me, too.
Yeah.
I said last night talking to friends, I said, of all the things that we saw, including Whittemore, which I still scratch my head about, what's the one thing that surprised you? Would it be the offensive line? He said, yes. Even though these guys were not starters, they went from having a pretty solid front in there to down to what? Two starters maybe they got left?
Yeah, it would be two now. And so that's and so they will need what they've signed, one or two or come through the portal.
Yeah.
And so that's where they got to get it. It's having a starting freshman offensive lineman isn't quite as rare as having a starting quarterback but it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
I mean, you can start them, but are they good? Usually if you start them, it's because you have no choice.
Yeah.
So that's where they these next couple of weeks, I'm sure that that's probably what Billy was doing. Late at night, going in and looking at offensive line tape.
One of the guys came
around,
on.
And,
for sure.
when he
Yeah.
ran into that guy.
Yeah. So, all right. So here's a stat I'll leave you with, and a little fact, a little kind of a fun comment. The stat is that this came from and all kinds of other. I want to give them credit. 28 players remain from the Mullen era on the roster now. That means 67% of the roster next year will be recruited by Billy Napier. It's pretty substantial. So the other thing is,
for 1 year, that's a lot. That's a lot of turnover.
It is,
which is not necessarily a bad thing.
And it wasn't. It was kind of a bloodless coup. He didn't run people off. It wasn't junction exactly. Best line I heard, I'll leave with this little levity, is that someone wrote, when Lincoln Riley set out to steal everything from Oklahoma on the way out the door, he made sure to take the defense as well.
I don't know if I've ever seen a worse defense the last. I mean,
what defense? Yeah.
Oh! I mean, what Utah did to them in that Pac-12 game, and then the other night, I mean, Tulane. Oh man!
Yeah.
I mean, it is, those people they're just wishing that they had Grantham.
Yeah, for sure.
Anybody. I wrote that the USC NIL that they're giving $50,000 bonuses to anybody who make a tackle.
Exactly. David Whittley, read him in the Gainesville Sun, probably a whole bunch of papers. Matter of fact, one of my favorite guys, one of my favorite writers. Great to have you on, David. Great stuff. Catch up to you soon.
Buddy.
Thanks very much.
Okay, take care.
All right, David Whittley.
Happy
New Year again to you as well. Thank you. Nothing
right,
wrong with that. Yeah, exactly. So, all right, folks, time to go to the Orange and Blue Room. Let's get this spot out here first. And also remind you we got this going on, and we got standing by is Graham Hall.
This is Lauren Meadows with Gator Bait Media, bringing to you a new special treat that we're going to have for you guys. Every Tuesday, I'm going to ask a trivia question from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Who will be the first to get it? If you are, you'll be in line for great prizes every month. We'll enter you into a drawing, and we'll see who's top in trivia. I'll do my best to stump you guys every single week from right here at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. For Gator Bait Media, this is Lauren Meadows. We'll see you inside.
All right, thanks very much. I'll get right to you in just a moment.
When you're a member of the Gator Nation, you know what it means to never back down. Meldon Law has been a proud supporter of the Gator Nation since 1971. Two forces that won't back down. As the old saying goes, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em.
All right, thanks very much, Jeffrey Meldon. We've got Graham Hall somewhere around here. He's having problems getting on line for some reason. We'll wait and see if we can clear that up and get to him in just a moment. Also, Lauren Meadows will be here with the trivia question. Some comments here from you online. Toby C. Permanent says Tarkin is dating Tony Baselli's daughter. That was probably one of the reasons he chose USC. Didn't know that, Toby. Didn't know you were to give us that kind of inside information. Get you your own show pretty soon. All right, so let's see. We hope to get a hold of Graham here in just a minute. We'll try him again and see what's going on his end. And looks like he got it this time. So let's go right to the Orange and Blue Room and talk to our Minister of Information, Graham Hall. Good evening, Graham. How you doing, brother?
Hey, buddy. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. Thought you were going to get you tonight. So you're having a problem logging on. Glad to see you.
Yeah, good to be here. Yeah, just having a little trouble with my camera, but we're all good.
Good. Yeah.
Holiday season, and happy New Year to you.
Same to you. Same to you, Graham. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Well, you're just in time because you can clear up some things here of questions that we've had. I thought were interesting. Apparently, Florida has dropped to number 13 in the 247 team 2023 recruiting classes, and that was the result of A&M flipping a guy. Is that what happened? Did you know of?
I wouldn't know off the top of my head, honestly, but I think that you have signed a top 15 class. It's all to development from there. Look at what happened in that Tulane USC game. I mean, Tulane had number 70 talent, positive coaching, development, and no trouble.
Yeah, there was another projection I read earlier too about the fact that TCU was they're in that so-called team talent composite. They were ranked quite low. Worked out pretty well for TCU.
Yeah, it did. Still have another chance.
So, were you satisfied with the playoff games, Graham?
I was. I actually wrote something about this on Swamp 247 right now, which are Scott Strickland's thoughts on expanding the college football playoff, and I absolutely am all for that. I'm for a 12-team playoff, but I didn't think that these games had lost their luster. Yeah, once again, number 1 and number 3 advanced out of those 2 games, but I didn't think that they had lost really any of their luster there. They were great games, some decisive sequences. I mean, you had a thrilling finish there in that Ohio State game. College kickers, and always if it comes down to that, that is a difficult situation to be in. I feel for the guy, absolutely. And then TCU, I don't think many people gave them a chance against a Michigan team that came in undefeated, was able to do it with a strong defense, balanced offense, and TCU rallied time and time in that game, got a big lead, was able to withstand, like I said, that Michigan rally. It was an impressive game in my mind. I'm absolutely thinking the committee thinks that they got it right there. I know that Alabama put on a convincing performance. A few other teams that were on the bubble right there made a case that maybe they should have been in it. But I thought that if you were watching those 2 games there over the new year, you could not have been disappointed whatsoever.
Bodes well for the 12-team playoff. Like someone said this morning on Shane's show, we were talking. Imagine that USC Tulane game was a playoff game. Terrific game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that absolutely one of the other arguments about it is that we talk a lot about 2 things: expanding the SEC, which is going to happen here in the next 2 years with Texas and Oklahoma getting in here, and then you talk about going from 8-game conference-only schedule to a 9-game conference schedule. I think that absolutely makes it so that if you're an SEC team and you also want to schedule the Utahs like Florida's going to do next year, or what we saw this past year, Oregon, Georgia, if you're going to do that and play 9 conference games, I mean, if you're staring down a gauntlet like that and knowing that one loss is going to potentially keep you out of being in that top 4 teams, that is going to, I think, decentivize the chance of scheduling a game like that and lead to a little bit less competitive of matchups than we otherwise would get. So expanding the playoff will kind of, I think, even increase the incentive for teams to play more conference games and some very interesting non-conference games. So all around, I think it is to use Scott Strickland's term, it's a pretty healthy, I think, change if you are a huge college football fan who's trying to see good games in the regular season and again in the postseason.
What did Strickland say about the SEC's performance in the postseason? Because it started out pretty miserable thanks to his team.
Yeah, I mean, not too much. And I think that he hopes, obviously, that the Florida Gators are in the college football playoffs sooner than later. But right now, I think that when you look at the SEC, who's playing top-notch competition every single week, they clearly have a case for multiple teams each year to get a few in there. And I think, Georgia having a chance to repeat this coming week, if they can do that, I think that will kind of speak to the dominance of the conference right now. But I know that no one wants to hear that, especially if they're a Florida fan, because it's coming at the expense of the Gators right now.
Yeah, and that's what they got to shoot for. That's kind of how it is. You got to get used to it, and you have to earn your way up that ladder and get back to where it was. I wrote a column this week about, and I've used this before, about going back to the time Florida won its 2nd national championship in 3 years, and myself and friends and one of our friends, a photographer, went to eat dinner at 2:00 in the morning. I probably told you this story before. We went to in Miami. We went to Wolfie's or whatever. 2:00, we're eating breakfast, and we started talking about what we just saw. And not trying to make myself sound like a sage, but I did say, guys, enjoy this now, because it's not going to be here forever. And it was gone the next year, and never has come back. So you think it's going to, you hear guys talk about it all the time in professional football. They say, oh, we figure we'd be back to the Super Bowl again and again and again. And guess what? We never did go back. So you have to seize the day, as they say, and seize the moment. Now, certainly Georgia's had their fair share of seizing the day. The question is, how's it going to play out? But you know what? Success can ruin your team. You start losing your assistant coaches. Other teams get better. Things don't last forever. But certainly Georgia's set up right now, if they can get the right trigger man in there, to have a heck of a run, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that also it's a reminder that they didn't get here overnight just by hiring Kirby Smart. There were some 7-5 finishes, 8-win seasons for 4 or 5 years before really they turned the corner and started recruiting at a really, really high level. And you saw them become this top-notch team. I know that so often we, are expecting to have some overnight success where a new coach comes in. And it happens. Look at what Tennessee has done with Josh Heupel, getting him in there after 1 year. They turn around a 500 team and are competing for, let's be honest, they were competing for the national championship at times this year and had a Heisman Trophy contending quarterback. So it certainly is possible that you hire a new coach, but more often than not, it's going to take several years, 3, 4. They always say that gradual, improvement is just that. It's gradual. It's not linear. It's not often going to be on a timeline. So you're going to need, I think, a little bit of time. And if you can look at a team like Georgia through an optimistic lens, you can easily see that this is what a program can become when they're given the amount of time that they need to make all those improvements. And then they set themselves up for what you just said is so rare, buddy. Sustained success. For Georgia to be in it back-to-back years, to have been as close as they have been for the past 5 years, really 4 or 5 years, I think is a sign of a healthy program. And it's also a reminder that it's worth buying into the cause and also enjoying it in the moment, because there were 41 years there in Athens where they didn't have a national championship and they were ridiculed for that. And Florida fans all know that they pointed out 1980 all the time to them. So this is their chance to be on top and enjoy the moment, because it could be gone before you know it.
Indeed. Final thing for you as we head to the break, and on the other side we've got Lauren Meadows giving away some swag from over at Spurrier's. Do you feel, what is your opinion about the pace Florida is working the portal? Do you feel like they're being aggressive enough? We know about the 3 people they picked up so far. Cameron Jackson, the big dude. Obviously, we know about the quarterback Graham Mertz and the linebacker Mitchell from Ohio State. Have you heard anything else? And do you think Florida's being aggressive enough in the portal?
The 4 guys they got, also Caleb Banks in there.
Caleb Banks, yeah.
I think a lot of people want them to replicate and make those additions a little bit quicker than they have made. I think that Billy Napier, since he got here a year ago, said that he was going to take a pretty patient approach, right? So that I think that tells me right away that he's going to wait to see what the landscape is like. They're still in the mix for some high school players. You could see some announced in the next couple of weeks, maybe this weekend as well. So I think that with that, they're going to rely, I think, on an abundance of younger players next year. I don't think you'll see a ton more transfer portal guys. I don't think you're certainly going to see double-digit ads over the next few weeks here. It's going to be a situation where they're going to shore up multiple positions with a few players, but right now I think that they've kind of worked to fill the needs. We talk about the lack of depth on the interior of the defensive line. We talked about the lack of depth in the quarterback room time and time again. Those are the positions Florida had to target. They couldn't really choose to wait too long. And so that's why I think you've seen them land those guys and keep fighting for some high school guys while seeing who else is going to enter the portal over the next couple of weeks. There's certainly some guys who still have some decisions to make.
Yeah, Banks, is he the guy from Louisville?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Defensive lineman, right?
Former Arizona State commit.
Arizona State, okay. I was thinking I got Louisville in my mind. Okay. That's part of the thing, keeping up, Your roster is already changing.
Right,
So.
Louisville. Absolutely spot on.
We'll say hello and goodbye to Lauren Meadows.
Hey, Lauren. How you doing, man? Good seeing you, man.
How you doing there, Graham? Happy New Year.
Good seeing you, man. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you and yours.
You too.
Graham, thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
I'll see you soon.
All right. Appreciate you. See you. Bye. Good evening to you, big guy.
How you doing, sir?
You look like you're sitting in a hole there. You look like I'm towering over you. I could dunk on you, right now. There you go.
Better?
Yeah. So I played your promo, and just then we'll play your trivia question, and we'll tell folks that there's some swag to give away over there at Spurrier's. Appreciate Freddie participating in that. He was on earlier tonight. Excuse me. Well, give me your summation. I haven't talked to you since the bowl games and since some of the games. What was your takeaway? First, the semifinal games, and then what bowl game impressed you the most?
Well, I think I'm kind of being originally from Ohio. I had little rooting interest in the second semifinal with Ohio State and Georgia. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody else could say, if you have 4 teams, that's probably the best 4 teams. Both games were really entertaining offensively. Neither defense played, none of the defenses played extremely well. And it kind of went the way that I thought it would go. I thought Michigan, even though they kind of stumbled a little bit, I thought they would find a way to grind out a win. Almost came through. And then I really thought Ohio State, and I had spoken with somebody that, that I thought Ohio State, if there was one advantage they had, was on the perimeter. And they kind of exploited that with Harrison and Julian Fleming and some of the others that were playing in the game with Jackson Smith and Jigba being out, and I thought they played extremely well. Just came up a couple plays short, and probably had the 4 best teams. I think all 4 teams represented themselves well, and it just goes to show you. I think you and I have talked about this enough. Styles make fights, and it's not necessary that Michigan kind of struggled with Georgia last year, where Ohio State was a different matchup. So you can look at, a lot of times people want to say, well, we beat Team A and then they beat, but it doesn't always end up that way. So I would say the 2 semifinal games, I agree with Mike Bluffs. I was really excited about the Rose Bowl. Obviously the injury to Cam Rising was kind of the difference in the game. I'm a big fan of Sean Clifford personally, saw him play in high school. He's got a brother that's a receiver on Penn State's team. He's going to be a pretty good player as well. And obviously what Tulane was able to do. That running back for Tulane and the quarterback too, but, the running back was just a difference maker on some key third and shorts, grinding out some yardage. And it was just, I think it was some decent games. Those were the ones that kind of stood out.
A good point by Eric Newton there. Incidentally, I'm one of the few guys who knows what this means. Eric talking about Lawrence Skyline Meadows. I know about Skyline Chili. I know about Skyline Chili. My wife maybe introduced me to it. Yeah, she's a Cincinnati girl, and she built it up so much that when I got to Cincinnati, finally ate it. This is what you were talking about? You raved about it? It just tastes like chili to me,
Yeah, it's okay. I'm actually to not rain on Eric. That's a good nickname. But I'm actually from Montgomery County, Dayton, Ohio. Mm-hmm. So we like Skyline, but not like those cats down south in Cincinnati. So
they definitely.
We're close enough to Cincinnati, but we kind of separate ourselves a little bit. We're more known for Marion's Pizza and a place that's long since gone called Chicken Louie's. That's what in Dayton.
I'm trying to think of the night I ate there. I went to Nate when Jacksonville University played there in the region. That's how many years ago that was, and saw a couple of great ball games. I saw Jacksonville beat Kentucky there and whatever. But we went out to eat, and my friend from childhood. Yeah, and he was up with me. We went to a place I didn't even know what it was called. I'll never forget. He ordered a steak, and he ordered a fillet, and they butterflied it. And when that steak came to his plate, he looked at the thing like it was some foreign object he'd never seen in his life. What is that? You know,
was it the Pine Club? Was that?
I don't remember. It's possible.
Okay.
I don't remember. But anyway, yep. And you weren't around back. Well, you were there, but you were probably about 4 years old. So at that time, yeah. So sorry. So I was very pleased with the postseason. I got weary at the end, but I found myself watching pieces of every bowl game. Unfortunately, I turned off the Tulane Southern Cal game with 4 minutes good to go. Missed the inning. I thought, and I saw the replay. What in the world just happened there? Good story.
Absolutely.
Love that story. So. All right, so we're talking tonight about the portal. We're talking about the transfer. We're talking about, before we get to the trivia, we'll do it, talking about how to keep up. And it's hard. We're in that business, and we're trying to keep up what's going on. And it's just very difficult to know. Like, I don't know if you knew about this or not. This came to our attention today. I just somehow didn't think of it happening. Did you hear about this?
I thought it was he'd been in college for 20 years. I thought it was kind of a given.
Did you?
I didn't know that he had the ability to come back. So, when you showed that earlier, that was kind of a moment because I thought, he's been in school for quite some time. I thought he'd exhausted
he's got eligibility, I'm pretty sure. But
I guess so. Yeah, I didn't realize that.
But being hurt, I figured he'd play another year, right? Wouldn't you think?
Yeah. If I guess I wasn't aware that he had another year. But for him to go to the NFL after the injury, I guess that I don't know. He's got a long road ahead of him as far as rehab is concerned, I believe. So I'm not sure.
They just talked like he was coming back. The other kid he's got an arm, hasn't he? Man.
Joe Milton.
Yeah, he's got an arm. Wow. So I thought that he threw that orange 100 and over 100 yards on the showed on TV. So, let's see what it says about.
Built a lot like he's a very similar skill set to Anthony Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
Same kind of build.
Yeah, that's what you remind me of. Exactly. Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah.
And Joe Milton was big time out of high school. When Michigan got him out of high school, he was, he was definitely, in the mix and somebody that they had high hopes for originally.
It calls him a senior, but of course that doesn't mean anything. You still get an extra year for COVID, so I don't know.
Right.
So I just somehow thought he was coming back. I didn't know he'd be playing. So
yeah.
All right, so let's tell folks what you got for a trivia question. Let me see if I can put it on here and smoke them out and see if they're paying attention tonight. Lauren may be giving away a new car. You never know. You never know.
Lauren Meadows with Gator Bait Media here, coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill with Tuesday Night Trivia. On January 2nd, 1997, the Florida Gators defeated the Florida State Seminoles 52-20 to win their first national title. In that game, who was Florida's leading rusher? Was it A, Fred Taylor, B, Elijah Williams, C, Terry Jackson, or D, Danny Werfel? Again, who was Florida's leading rusher in Florida's 52-20 win over Florida State? Was it A, Fred Taylor, B, Elijah Williams, C, Terry Jackson, or D, Danny Werfel? Be the first to answer, and you'll be entered into our monthly drawing. With Gator Bait Media, this is Lauren Meadows.
All right, thank you. I actually know that one, rarity, but we'll see how many people can guess at it. So, first one's in. We got a couple of guesses. We'll give them a minute. And I know you're going to be not available to go and watch some of your favorite events like hoops, women's hoops and stuff. What do you think of Kelly's team?
I think they're playing well. I mean, they're missing. A lot of people don't realize. I mean, she's doing extremely well with I think they're 12-3. I think with loss, obviously, to Tennessee, Oklahoma kind of got away from them, and then the loss early to Florida State. But I mean, I think she's doing a great job of keeping them involved, keeping them, motivated. I mean, they're without, basically, their top three scorers. I mean, you talk about Zippy Broughton being gone, and then Jordan Merritt. And God, it escapes. I just had a brain fart. Give me a second. But the girl, Leilani Correa. I mean, those are their top three scorers returning. And then Leilani Correa was an All Big East transfer that's dealing with a lower leg injury. She's day to day per Kelly Finley. But I mean, really doing a great job of keeping the young ladies motivated and kind of playing above their heads. Alberti Remdel, who was a freshman last year, is kind of finding the range from the 3-point line, and then has kind of added a dribble drive to her game and is really playing well. And then, they play really well together. They're a close-knit team, as I wrote a couple weeks ago. I mean, you can really tell that it's a team that is really gelled, and even the transfers like KK Dean and Rashea Kyle have really stepped in and really asserted themselves into the team dynamic. And I mean, I was talking to one of the assistants after the little get-together that they had, and if they can keep everybody healthy, and I think most of the team will be back next year, along with they have a 5-star point guard coming in that, I mean, they could really be on to something in the next couple of years. So I mean, she's done a great job with the team, and has they had a really big win on the road at Texas A&M the other day, and she's doing a really nice job with that basketball team.
Yeah, she's fun. I like to watch her coach. She's fun. She has a lot of joy out there, and I think that's what brings. All right, you want to go again? Tell them who won. I see.
And a lot of people. I was going to say, the thing about her too is a lot of people don't realize this, and maybe that's my fault, or maybe I should kind of sit down with her again. Is she's the daughter of a coach, a championship winning coach. Her father won a couple state titles. He was her coach and coaches her sister. So I think that shows too. She's been around coaching all her life, and I think that shows.
I got the perfect idea for you. You don't have a lot of time these days, but how about 10 questions for Kelly Ray Finley in the Q&A?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That would be interesting. Sit down with her sometime. All right, tell them who got it right. What they got, Don Pardo.
It looks like the answer is Terry Jackson.
Ray C. Walker.
It looks like.
Gordon Stevens. Gordon Stevens was first. Right?
Well, Kenny Green got it.
Did he? I missed. Okay.
Yeah, so Kenny Green was in. He put C, which was Terry Jackson.
Okay.
So Kenny Green will be the first entry into the first one in the kitty for 2023.
All right, congratulations, Kenny. You wait and see what you're going to get. I think it might be a trip to the Bahamas. I'm not sure. Lauren's going to pay for it.
Yeah, you just got to pay the passport fees and take care of the rest.
All right, Lauren. Appreciate it, buddy. You take care. Again, we're saying this is the last week. We're saying Happy New Year. So I'm going to say it one more time to you. Take care, my friend.
All right. Thank you.
Lauren Meadows. You can read him in Gator Bay. You can hear him on this program on Tuesday nights, and he always brings a little extra. So I want to be sure and tell you folks about my sponsors again. Appreciate the support we get from them all the time. And we've been, folks at Meldon Law have been really great about supporting us. And, of course, now Titan MRI, sponsor of Shane's show on Monday night. Shane won't be doing this morning show anymore. You'll hear him here. And, of course, our sponsor and friend, Red Star Medical Research, who's done a fabulous job in our community. And also, they're good stewards and stakeholders. They also take care of our health. which is important these days. As we know, it's always important, but lately it seems like it's even more. Red Star Medical Research, they have a proven reputation as a high-quality, patient-centered clinical research facility, bring cutting-edge clinical research trials to Ocala in areas like Alzheimer's, psoriasis, osteoarthritis, migraines, fibromyalgia, along with many other conditions that affect our community. Since their inception in 1998, Renstar participated in more than 700 clinical research trials, continues to partner with prominent pharmaceutical and biomedical companies throughout the medical industry. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Thank our guests, David Whitley, Graham Hall, Lauren Meadows. And we will be back tomorrow night. We'll have a bulldog on tomorrow night, longtime friend of mine, Lauren Smith will be joining us. So appreciate it. You folks have a good night. Have good health. Talk to you again tomorrow night, same time, same station.